Hello and welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Eric Montia. This is the Nana. Of course, I am occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. This man is your vice mayor, your Thunder State, the one and only Jesse Friedman. Jesse, are there more rule changes coming for MLB? Is that really going to happen?
What did you think they didn't do enough in 2023?
I think
clearly they need to do more, Derek. Everyone understands.
Clearly, see, this is what happens. I said it was a slippery slope. You start fiddling with the rules. Next thing you know, we're only going to have 8 men on the field. Only half of them are going to hit. There's going to be booby traps in left field. Like things are going to get crazy, but. Of course, there are more additional rule changes potentially coming to MLB, and they're, of course, just testing them, just thinking about them. But what are these rule changes that they're thinking about implementing?
Yeah, so there's a number of things to varying degrees of importance, and these are just proposed changes as of right now. Nothing has been made official. But the one that is widely expected to be implemented for the 2024 season is a reduction in the time on the pitch clock while men are on base. So currently 20 seconds, right? And the proposal has that going down to 18 seconds for the 2024 season and likely beyond. It's interesting. I know I've heard a number of players say that maybe you make both of them 20. I think maybe some people have proposed making both of them 15, whether they're men on base or not. But this would be, I guess they're saying that the difference between them is too large, and we want 18 seconds with guys on base as opposed to 20, just to make sure that pitchers don't linger too much in those situations. I guess maybe they felt that there was a little bit too much time. I don't know if that's necessarily consistent with my experience. It's also hard to, it's only 2 seconds. Like, how much are we really impacting game times by going from 20 seconds to 18 seconds? But
I feel like people said that about the rule changes this year, though, right? Like, I feel like there was this case to be made before they were actually implemented that, is it really going to shorten baseball games that much? Is it really going to have that big of an impact? And it absolutely did.
Yeah,
it absolutely did. I felt like you could count on your two hands the number of 3-hour plus games the Diamondbacks had this season, where it felt like in the past, it was more of the case with anything under 3 hours was more of the case where you could count it on two hands, right? So like it immediately impacted the game, and for the most part, everybody feels like that was a better change. People like shorter baseball games. Baseball is a game that can tend to linger. There was a very funny video.
You just want the game over in an hour and a half, Derek. We get it.
No, I'm not saying that. You're putting words in my mouth. But Rob Friedman, I sent you the video earlier, posted a hilarious video of essentially an entire half an inning taking place during a regular season game. Meanwhile, on the other side of the video was a single pitch being thrown by Pedro Baez, and the entire half an inning took place before Pedro Baez threw a pitch. And that's,
I think it says more about Pedro Baez than anything else. But I think it was a spring training game on the other side.
Yeah.
I think it was comparing a spring training game.
Yeah, it wasn't apples and oranges, or it wasn't apples and apples, definitely. But it was a funny reminder of how much faster the game moves with the pitch clock than it does when you just allow a pitcher like Pedro Baez to just completely monopolize your time and steal your day. Your time is important. Gabriel Ferreira in the comments says, I took a couple of friends to watch a game that hadn't been in a couple of years, and their reaction was, oh, wow, it's the 9th already.
Yeah,
yes,
totally.
And I mean, in some cases, we both agree that some games just move too fast. There were times where we didn't even have time to get our work together.
We're used to having a nice 3 hours to prepare
we need
for our
that buffer.
post-game shows, and we did not have all of that time. There are a couple of metrics that Major League Baseball is pointing to when proposing this change. The average game time in April was 2 hours and 36 minutes, according to this article from The Athletic, but peaked at 2 hours and 44 minutes in September. So as the season went on, games got a little bit longer, presumably because pitchers kind of adjusted the clock, and maybe they weren't quite so careful. They settled in a little bit more. So, those 2.5 hour game times that we saw early in the season were maybe a little bit indicative of the players kind of overcorrecting maybe a little bit. And whereas the more realistic game time in the long term was maybe more like 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's more like what we saw at the end of the year. The other thing that Major League Baseball is pointing to is that pitchers with runners on base delivered the pitch with an average of 7.3 seconds left on the clock, which is a decent amount of time, right? I guess you can make a case that suggests that there's 20 seconds is more time than you actually need. And if we're going from 20 to 18, that still should be perfectly comfortable for pitchers if they're starting their delivery with 7 seconds on the clock anyway. Sure. So you can understand where they're coming from here. I do think on the pitcher side of things, like from the player's perspective, there's some concern about pitcher injuries. That's been a topic of conversation quite a bit recently. And, do we really want to implement more changes to reduce the amount of time that pitchers have, just to save a handful of minutes, if that, when it's all said and done.
And that's the thing is, like all of this just kind of shaves some time. Like you said, the batter timeouts timed would go on a 15 or 18 second timer.
Yeah, batter timeouts were not timed at all.
Right.
Which I did honestly always think was a little weird. It was like you've got a timer on like the game itself, but when you take a timeout, then there is no timer.
Well, and pitchers
in that
too.
Situation.
Yeah, pitchers too, right? Sometimes when they walk off the mound or whatever, that's going to be reduced. They're no longer to delay the start of the clock by walking around the edge of the mound after a ball is out of play. There's just, like you said, pitchers adapted. They found ways that they could do things that were within the rules that still gave them that little break. Max Scherzer was on Foul Territory yesterday. Foul Territory, of course, friends of the show. And he talked about his concerns with pitcher injuries, and like he's not wrong, right? I mean, there is.
It's hard to say. I think the data there is a little bit inconclusive. If you just look at the number and duration of pitcher injuries this year, they're on the higher end, but they're not so much higher than we've seen in the past that clearly indicates that pitchers were more prone to injury just because of the pitch clock. What Max Scherzer talked about, and he was referencing some comments from Dr. Neil Trash. I'm hopefully
it's definitely not.
No, it's definitely not
Hell Trash.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I would change my name if I was Dr. L. Trash. It's like James Outland being a position player. It doesn't make any sense.
It's terrifying. Yeah, there's another doctor name that he was also quoting, which I don't have recorded here. But suffice it to say, these are doctors who perform some of the most important surgeries on pitchers. And yes, you're right that I'm completely butchering that name in this moment. But what those doctors were saying was that the severity of the injuries that they encountered when doing these procedures was more significant than what they've seen in the past. So maybe the volume of injuries hasn't changed, but the severity of the injuries maybe has changed.
Yeah.
And that's what Max Scherzer was pointing to. And there's also been this conversation about how we want to preserve starting pitchers in this game. Fans don't like bullpen games, right? There's this sense that like we really have this degree of appreciation for pitchers who can go, 6 innings every time out. Yeah. And why would we want to endanger those same guys by making them throw pitches more quickly than is ideal for them? So Max Scherzer expressed some concern along these lines. It's hard, like I said, with the data. I don't know that there is conclusive data on this, and that's what Major League Baseball has come back with, is that we don't have any data that actually says that, the pitch clock has an impact on pitcher injuries.
The idea here is that I think a pitcher has to throw the ball before they're ready in some cases, and they're putting some stress on their on their arm, whatever part it may be, if they are, they're experiencing some sort of discomfort, right? Which happens because it's hard to throw a baseball 100 times at like 95 miles an hour and not have your arm ache a little bit at times during the game and not go through those ups and downs. And sometimes
Sure.
a pitcher just needs a moment, right? And I think that's kind of the idea there, is that now you're forcing them to not give themselves that moment because they don't have it, because the game is taking that out. Whether or not that actually impacts if a pitcher was going to get injured or not is a whole other thing, right? But it could be just the idea here of that rapid repetition that could put the stress on an arm, and we could see an increase in pitchers being injured. But we won't know that until we have some conclusive data, and that takes time, right?
Right.
That takes time to show that, right? So, but I mean, the reason why I say it's a valid concern, because logically it does make sense what he's saying, right? But I mean, honestly, I feel like they've tested that, and I feel like because they do have a vested interest in the health of these players, that MLB wouldn't be putting the risk out there if they wouldn't have already had these conversations with medical professionals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, this is not the 20 to 18 seconds thing is not the only proposed change. And again, these are just proposals as of right now.
Sure.
So none of this stuff is officially, locked in for 2024. It sounds like the reduced pitch timer with men on base is very likely to happen from what we've heard. But yeah, there's the batter timeouts thing that you already mentioned, where that would be on a clock. There's a rule that pitchers must work exclusively from the stretch with runners on base. Apparently, there were some issues with pitchers doing kind of a hybrid between the windup and the stretch, and that created a little bit of confusion as it relates to the pitch clock. And so Major League Baseball wants to limit that. I don't think players will like that at all. Reducing mound visits from 5 per game to 4 per game. That's an interesting one.
That one's interesting, yeah.
You feel like that, I mean, there were definitely times this year where the Diamondbacks were sort of running low. I mean, that is something you don't see often where teams run out of that, but it does happen in certain situations. The timer resetting to 2 minutes rather than 2:15 when a new pitcher is entering the game. Pitchers no longer being permitted to delay the start of the clock by walking around the edge of the mound after a ball is out of play. I think you alluded to that one earlier. And then this one is especially interesting to me, a requirement that a pitcher who warms up, like on the field, not a pitcher who warms up in the bullpen.
Okay, I was wondering about that because I was like, wait a minute, what are we doing here?
Any pitcher who warms up in the bullpen has to face at least one batter. No, that is not what this rule says. But it does say that if you bring in a pitcher who warms up on the field in between innings, that pitcher has to throw at least one pitch, or has to face at least one batter, I guess is what this says.
And is that to keep from like the kind of chess game that Torrey was playing with Pavin Smith, for instance, where you would put him out there?
Yeah, it would prevent pitchers or teams from having pitchers come out to warm up and then wait for the opposing team's hitter to be announced and then deciding, oh, wait, we actually want to have so-and-so come in and pitch instead. I think Major League Baseball cited like 20 or something situations of this where pitchers came out to warm up but then did not face at least one batter, and each of those resulted in like 3 minutes of dead time. And 3 minutes of dead time, I mean, Rob Manfred, like Major League, like they cannot have that at this point.
No,
so,
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Time is money now, Jesse. It's like Elise says, I love the pitch clock. I would watch the games without it, but man, what an improvement it made for the pace. And the Diamondbacks kind of benefited from the rule changes, here after that first year, right? Am I wrong? I mean, the Diamondbacks definitely had more picks from timer violations than any other team, right? And not to mention the fact that we saw the chaos created. You could attribute a little bit to the pitch clock, a little bit to the bigger bags, a little bit to everything, but it seemed to kind of work out in the Diamondbacks' favor. And, we also saw them have less errors than they've ever had in a season, and some other things there that felt like just overall that the Diamondbacks were one of the better teams as far as taking advantage of the rules last year.
Yeah, they really were. You said it earlier, kind of funny. They had more pitch timer violations committed against them than any other team. So they were, in that sense, the new rules were a net positive for them. They committed 34, and I think they had something in the mid 50s committed against them. So they came out way on the positive.
We're fucking
end there.
dangerous when it comes to knowing the rules.
It was somewhat interesting to look up which Diamondbacks players committed the most pitch timer violations. This wasn't really something that I knew off the top of my head going in. But Merrill Kelly had the most of any pitcher with 4.
That doesn't surprise me one bit. Merrill Kelly he was the most vocal opposer of the pitch clock in the first place and continued to be all season long. So.
And he had less time to adjust because of the whole WBC
that's a good point
situation in spring training. Of all the D-backs hitters, this one was really, really interesting to me. Emmanuel Rivera had more pitch timer violations than any D-backs hitter with 3. It was only 3.
We Stanuel? We Stanuel? What happened?
Yeah, I don't really remember those. Like, that didn't really stand out to me, but apparently Merrill Kelly and Emmanuel Rivera were your 2 worst pitch timer offenders on the Diamondbacks.
It's not very professional hitter.
I want to say he had 2 and like 1 at bat or something weird happened at one game, maybe 2 in one game. But yeah, no, I do remember him having a couple. But yeah, not very many. Diamondbacks committed 34 as a team, which ranks 16th in baseball. The Mariners had the fewest with 15, which is impressive.
They had way fewer than any other team.
That's crazy.
I think the next lowest was 25, and the Mariners were way down there at 15.
Yeah. Then the Mets had the most with 55.
You want to guess which player? It's a pitcher. It's a reliever. I'll give you that hint. Which reliever in baseball committed more pitch timer violations than anyone else?
Craig Kimbrell.
I think
Let's go.
He had like 3 in one inning in one save situation against the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, that's why I remember him.
That was in the regular season. I think it was at Chase Field. There was one. I think he still got the save, but he committed multiple. I think it was 3 pitch timer violations in that one appearance. So yeah, he had a bit of a problem there. But even he had 13, I think, in the entire season, which is a lot. I mean, that means on average 1 out of every 5 or so appearances, 4 or 5 appearances. That is on the higher end. But yeah, I mean, like, D-backs committed 34 of these violations the entire season. You're averaging, about 1 every 5 games as a team. That's not super prohibitive or disruptive to the game, right? I know a lot of people were concerned about that going in. Pitch timer violations had really faded off significantly by the end of the year, bordering on being, pretty much non-existent. So as far on that front, it seems like the rule changes were a big success. Everyone, I think, really liked the pitch clock. At least the vast majority of people liked the pitch clock, and the violations really, really just kind of there just weren't that many once we got close to the end of the season.
You and I attended a meeting with MLB at the beginning of the year to discuss the rules, and one of their big focuses was the fact that this wasn't going to impact the game as much as people thought it was going to, other than making the game move quicker, making the pace move faster. And honestly, that I've never seen this many rules implemented into a sport all kind of at once that really did change it, that really didn't have a lot of blowback, didn't have a lot of pushback after a while. I mean, you still had people like Kelly, who had some negative things to say about it, and just Max Scherzer, who refuses to kind of accept it and want to, blame injuries that probably most likely would have happened anyway on the rule changes. But for the most part, I feel like they accomplished their goal extremely well. And I think that this was actually a very smooth transition, so much so that now, they're continuing to tinker, and they're trying to see what else they can do. They're not even trying to give it multiple seasons before they're considering additional rule changes, right?
And that's where there's some controversy, because I think some players are like, if this was such a raging success in the first year, why do we have to go through and make 8 different changes, for the next season? I can sort of see MLB side of, if there are changes that we can make that we feel wouldn't really disrupt things, but are small changes that would still make things better. I can understand the desire to do those things. But yeah, 1 year does seem it's pretty fast. There's already been so much change. Maybe you leave it alone for a few years and then circle back to what people like and don't like once you have a little bit more data and people have had more experience with it. But that's not the way that Rob Manfred and company have been operating, right? I mean, they see changes and they want to execute them immediately.
The shot clock's been 24 seconds in basketball for how long, right? I mean, they're going to completely ruin rap songs from the 90s if they go and change that and alter it. But like the point is yeah, they probably could move basketball games along a little faster or whatever if they made those tweaks. But why? It works. It gives them the proper pace of play, and that's it, right? And I feel like that's what baseball achieved. Baseball, in fact, achieved a way of making the sport better without really impacting it a whole lot as far as the product on the field. If anything, they achieved their goals of increasing offense. They achieved their goals of shaving down game times and averages across the league. You know, there's a lot of things here that were positive. Stolen bases were up, things like that. Like everything they wanted to do worked. You know, just let it play out for more than one season, you know? And I mean, then maybe I get it. It's easier probably to make the changes like now and try to get it to where they want it to be rather than continuing to tinker with it over a 10-year period of time. But I don't see really a reason at this point to change it much, because I've actually had some people say like, wow, that game went really fast. And that's not something that you typically heard about baseball in the past. I mean, an actual time of game of like 2 hours and 5 minutes is kind of crazy. And there's some people that might like baseball enough, like this guy over here, that don't want to see those games that short. But
I mean, I just am not unilaterally in favor of everything that makes the game shorter, because I like baseball, and I don't need it to be over after 60 minutes or something. But
it's kind of like the DH for me, right? Like I liked the strategy of pitchers, right?
Sure.
I like the idea of having a shitty hitter in your lineup that you have to account for. But, it's like I knew the whole time that having a DH was going to make the game more fun and better and increase offense and do all of that stuff. It's just I like the strategy of the pitcher being in the lineup. I like good hitters that are pitchers. I liked all of that stuff. So, but it doesn't mean that I wasn't accepting of the rule change to the DH. And like deep down inside, like I said, I knew it was better for the game, and it was. It's better. We want to see a guy that can hit in there rather than a pitcher struggling to lay down a bunt or basically get struck out on 3 straight pitches when the team has a rally going, and now this clown's up trying to hit, right? So it is what it is. But don't forget, I'm not forgetting about you, Craig Kimbrell. You're getting our OG's performance to forget just for the season.
I feel like I should get the OG's performance to forget for my pronunciation of.
Yeah, Jesse. We'll throw Jesse in there too for Dr. Neil L. Trash.
What's driving me nuts now? I've heard the name pronounced before. And I know it's not El Trash.
What is it?
But I can't figure out what it is. So in my head, like El Trash, like I can't come up with any alternative.
I won't lie.
Is it El Trash? Is it like attaché? Is it like
it's El Trash? I think, or something like that.
Atrache?
Yeah. No, I mean, you're just trying to say trash with a little accent on the E over the end, but it is what it is. See, if you're like Jesse and you don't know how to say names, a good place to start is with OG's brands, because then you can blame it on the OGs and say, that's why I called you Dr. L. Trash. But again, Craig Kimbrell, performance to forget. OG's brands will help you forget some of those bad performances, but they'll also help you around the holidays to get over some of that stress. Maybe if you have some sleepless nights, or maybe you just want to add to the fun. You can check out our friends at OG's Brands. Of course, they are back at it at this time of the year, giving you some exclusive deals here for our PHNX listeners, and they've made it super easy for you to score some savings. You can get 25% off any OG's products at your neighborhood Zenleaf location from now until November 30th when you place an online order and use our code of PHNX. Just head to Zenleaf dispensaries.com, find your closest location, order your favorite OG's gummies for pickup, and enter discount code PHNX to get 25% off at checkout. The deal is exclusive to our PHNX listeners, and reminder, it's available only for online and pickup orders. Discount code PHNX is active until November 30th. What's on Thursday? It's Thanksgiving. We can have this talk, but I don't think we really need to have this talk. I think we have a basic understanding here of how important having some OG's brands in your life could be this Thursday. So again, make sure to not miss out on that opportunity, but very excited to announce that we are partnering with Arizona Lottery. Jesse, I love scratchers. I love scratchers. I love scratchers so much. Scratchers are the best. They are my favorite thing to give during the holiday season. I love to fill my wife's stocking with scratchers, and I love to get scratchers because, yes, I get it. They're not all going to be winners, but what if one of them is a winner? What if you win $5,000, $10,000, up to $50,000 this holiday season? Top prizes top out at $500,000. So do not miss out on holiday scratchers from Arizona Lottery. They make last-minute shopping easy for you procrastinators like this guy next to me that wait until Christmas Eve. For some inexplicable reason, you can stop anywhere that's open, any convenience store, supermarket, and grab yourself some holiday scratchers as a perfect gift for your friends. Scratchers start out at just $1. And of course, you can get scratchers for everyone on your list. So make sure to stop by anywhere that dispenses those Arizona Lottery scratchers and get some today. Go out and buy your holiday scratchers today. All right. Well, of course, here's the thing. We have some more free agents to talk about, but one of the guys we want to talk about just got picked up today by the St. Louis Cardinals. Kyle Gibson, I'm not going to attack him for his age, but let's say a veteran in the league who was with the Baltimore Orioles, signs a one-year deal with the St. Louis Cardinals. So players are on the move. Things are happening. We're getting to that time of the year where these free agents are all starting to sign. We talked a little bit about a lot of this, a lot of major deals maybe not happening until the winter meetings, but those winter meetings are right around the corner here in December. So once those happen, we can really see some of the big names start to move, but that doesn't mean we might not see some names come off the board early because some of these teams are looking to secure these deals with these guys. And in some cases, the talks might have been going on for a while, but yeah, Kyle Gibson's signing with the Cardinals. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Kyle Gibson is pretty underrated.
Yeah.
Generally across the game. I mean, last season with Baltimore, his 4.73 ERA is not inspiring necessarily. Doesn't jump off the page, but he gave them 192 innings, and there's a lot of value in. There's not that many guys who do that at this point, right? It is kind of funny that Aaron Nola had a 4.46 ERA last year and almost the exact same number of innings as Kyle Gibson, and Aaron Nola gets 172 million and Kyle Gibson gets, I think it's 12 million for 1 year with a team option. Even though their ERAs weren't actually that different last year. Kyle Gibson's 36. He is significantly older than Aaron Nola. Obviously, it's a big part of that, and Nola's track record is a little bit better, but he's just been a solid pitcher in this league for a long time. He had a 4.13 FIP in 2023. I think he's better than that high fours ERA indicates. And I mean, you look at his last few years. I mean, 2022 wasn't great, but again, he had a relatively low FIP. 2021, he had a 3.71 ERA in 30 starts, over 180 innings that season as well. So yeah, just a solid pitcher. I think a guy who doesn't get his flowers as much as he probably should. If you're a St. Louis Cardinals fan, you may or may not be excited about this. Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson are not. It's not exactly.
Don't look at the stats. Don't go to the baseball reference page. Don't go to the baseball savant page. Just trust the process.
At this point, the Cardinals, I think, really need to get one of the headliner starting pitchers that's on the market, because they came into the offseason and it certainly looked like they needed 3 guys. That's, I believe, what they said, that they needed 3 guys in their starting rotation.
Yeah.
And they have 2 of them. And neither of those guys are the kind of needle movers that get you from, the kind of season that the Cardinals just had back to where they want to go.
I'm not going to, I don't want to knock either one of these guys, but I didn't really even want to do a free agency frenzy piece on either one, to be honest, because they weren't exactly the kind of guys I wanted the Diamondbacks to target either.
Sure.
We knew both of them would kind of be on a short-term deal like they got, and we knew both of them were not exactly the best fit with the Diamondbacks plan. We were hoping, especially to go in the direction of younger, if we're going to go like a longer term, especially maybe try to get a pitcher in here for a number of years that can help this team compete over this, next 5-year span, right? But it's not to say that Kyle Gibson doesn't still have something to offer, but it does feel like the Cardinals, who were last in their division last year, need more than Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn for sure in order to help them get out of where they're at. They're not exactly rebuilding. They have a team, a solid team offensively. They just need to try to bring in some pieces here to help them, pitching wise. And I don't know if these guys are the answer.
Yeah, I mean, they traded away, right, Jack Flaherty and Jordan Montgomery.
Right.
And so far, they've replaced them with Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, which,
what are we doing here?
I know Jack Flaherty didn't have a great season, but yeah, they haven't exactly moved the needle, significantly in their direction at this point. So I still think the Cardinals will probably get one of the headliner guys, and this will start to make a little more sense. But
is it bad that I hope they don't? Is it bad that I just want them to sink to the bottom of their division for multiple years?
I think that's exactly what I would. That's exactly what I would expect from you. It would be completely out of character if it was anything else.
That's fine. But hey, speaking of guys that the Diamondbacks moved on from, one of those guys happens to be, or not Diamondbacks, but the Cardinals moved on from. That happens to be a person who we both feel that the Diamondbacks should target, but might not really be in the market for because his services are going to be in high demand, and there's a good chance he is going to receive a considerable amount of money. That pitcher would be Jordan Montgomery, who is from the World Series champion Texas Rangers, and that made me almost throw up in my mouth a little bit.
What's your deal, man?
I don't know why. I don't know why. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? I don't. Oh. I feel bad.
If I had said that, you would have gotten so angry.
I would have demanded that you leave the studio. I feel like I should demand that I leave the studio. What are we even doing here? But let's take a look at Jordan Montgomery and if he would be a good fit for the Arizona Diamondbacks, because he did have kind of he had an up and down season just because his season was a bit erratic with the St. Louis Cardinals and then being moved over to the Texas Rangers through a trade and then kind of blossoming there with the Rangers. It's not to say he didn't have good numbers with the Cardinals, but he really fit in there with the Rangers and ended up becoming a extremely valuable piece for them during their postseason run.
Yeah, I mean, 188 and 2/3 innings. Another guy like Gibson, like Nola, one of those few starting pitchers that really can, is pretty durable and has a track record of being able to give you some real innings. A 3.20 ERA, a 1.19 WHIP in 2023. He was especially good after the trade to the Rangers in the middle of the season. I think he had a 2.87 ERA in 11 starts with Texas down the stretch. So. He certainly made himself some money with the second half that he had. And as you said, the way that he pitched in the postseason, he wasn't all that great in that start against the D-backs. The D-backs had some success against him. They got 4 runs on 9 hits against him over 6 innings. But prior to that, he was, a really big part of why the Rangers were able to win the World Series, a 2.63 ERA in the postseason overall. This is a guy who's going to get... I think it's pretty clear he's going to get 9 figures. It's just a matter of, what exactly that number is when all is said and done.
Yeah, he is one of the best left-handed pitchers available on the free agent market, if not arguably potentially. Not the best, but he's right
Blake
up there.
Snell is probably number one.
Blake Snell is number one. I mean, we got Erod as well, but I mean, there's not a lot of lefties available on the market. Imanaga, another one that Jacob was a big fan of. We talked about that the other day, but Montgomery is a Boras client, which means, of course, that he is going to fetch a high price. They know how to negotiate. Aaron Nola got 7 years, $172 million. Chances are that this will be Jordan Montgomery's final contract, right? Like final big contract. He's 31 years old, or he will turn 31 on December 27th, so he'll be 31 prior to next year. So this is absolutely one of those cases where after appearing in the World Series and after having the season that he had, I know for me personally as a player, this would be the year I'm looking to really get that big contract.
Should we be concerned that Craig Morgan?
Yeah, I don't like that. That made me. He just came in
just
here and
took a picture of us, and then he left.
And then just walks out. Wow. Like, should we drag him back in here and make him explain himself?
Is that a threat?
It's a fucking weird thing. Like, it puts you in an awkward position. My hands are tied. He knows I can't go over there and physically assault him right now, right? So it's a great time to take a picture of me. I'm kind of held captive here. But yeah, now I got to get I'm just going to sit here. I can't think about Jordan Montgomery because I'm just going to wonder what Craig is doing with that picture right now as we speak. But
so Aaron Nola got 7 years, $172 million.
Yeah. You think he'll get more?
I don't know. Montgomery will not get more than Nola.
Okay.
I feel pretty confident about that. He just doesn't have the track record that Nola has.
5 years?
I think 5 years is kind of what I'm expecting. I could maybe see 6 happening. I feel like the AAV would be a little bit lower than what Nola got, which was like 24.5-ish, 24.7, something like that. So yeah, you're looking at, for Jordan Montgomery, you're looking at 5 and 110, maybe.
Okay.
6 and something similar, 6 and 130-ish. Yeah, I think that's probably along the lines of what you're looking at there. You think you have enough in your wallet, Derek?
I'll go stop by the ATM on the way home, but we can make this shit happen. 510, yeah, no, I'm down for that. I'll pull it out of the bank right now.
I'm sorry, Derek. It's million. I should have said million.
$110. No, yeah, you're right. No, I don't have that cash on me or in my account, but
the
I know
D-backs
the Diamondbacks
have
do.
the D-backs have some money to spend. Yeah. I think Gambo on Burns and Gambo the other day said that he wouldn't be surprised if the D-backs wound up north of 150 million in payroll, which they only have about 100 on the books right now, including Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah,
so
that's a lot.
I would personally be maybe a little surprised if that happened. I was a little surprised to hear Gambo say that, but if the D-backs are in fact going to spend $50 million this winter, on an annual basis, you probably could find room.
Yeah.
For a guy like Jordan Montgomery in there if you wanted to.
That doesn't seem very expensive. This seems like that's like what, JD Martinez was going to get, and then we turned that down, and then it ended up seeming ridiculous that we did that after he left, right? So I think to add somebody for the next 5 years that could potentially help this Diamondbacks team have a substantially good starting rotation that would be strong. And then you can find a lot of options for that fifth starter, but those four, that's a strong starting rotation.
Yeah,
Gallen, Kelly, Montgomery, and Brandon Pfaadt. So
I feel like he's more of a mid rotation guy for me than like a top of the rotation guy.
Like after Kelly, probably Brandon Pfaadt.
He would slide in pretty well as a number 3 starter, and there's some consistency here. Like he had a 3.20 ERA this year, he had a 3.48 last year, he had a 3.83 the year before that. He had some didn't have a good year during the pandemic, but that's sort of whatever. Dealt with some injuries the couple of years before that. But yeah, he's had a pretty decent track record of being a solid starter, not an ace, but a solid starter in this league. Do you want to give a solid non-ace starting pitcher $120 million or whatever it winds up being? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the answer is no for the Diamondbacks, even if that's money that they could theoretically afford to spend. But
we'll insubstantial amount of money. It's not an insubstantial
amount. It is not insubstantial.
Imagine once you teach him the Robert Beshan's football slider, Jesse, he'll be unstoppable. Get him into the system. Just get him into the system is all I'm saying. Well, of course, we thank you guys for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do so now. Sign up for notifications that way you don't miss when any of our shows go live. Leave us a thumbs up, drop us a like, as Gabby would say. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, I assure you, Gabrielle Moreno just stopped by to tell everybody to drop a like. I know you can't see that, but you'll just have to trust me on that one. Make sure you subscribe there. Leave us a 5-star review. We always appreciate that. As well, and make sure to grab a shirt from the PHNXlocker.com. A big sale is right around the corner, so go over there and make sure to stock up. Get your loved ones some loved shirts from PHNX. Also, check out BetMGM, of course, if you haven't done so already. Football season is here. College football, college basketball, all of that is right here, right now. It's a great time to hop on the Sportsbook app and win yourself some money. You can sign up with our code of PHNX, and if you do, you will get $200 in bonus bets instantly just by playing a qualifying wager of at least $10. All you have to do is download the Sportsbook app on iOS or Android or visit betmgm.com. Sign up with the code of PHNX. Once you do, you just deposit at least $10 into your newly created account and bet at least $10 at a standard odds price on a qualifying bet. Once you have done so, you will receive $200 instantly in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. Just cashed in on, of course, all of my future bets, which was basically a bunch of Corbin Carroll Rookie of the Year. But that was a beautiful part about it, is I could just keep betting on it and betting on it and betting on it and just adding more money to my eventual my windfall. So
there you go.
You can do so too. Sign up for BetMGM. Use bonus code PHNX. Maybe place a future Rookie of the Year bet on Jordan Lawler, perhaps. Who knows? Place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the Sportsbook mobile application of at least $10. You will receive $200 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. Check out the show notes for full details, and now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
Ontario.
He's nailing it. Gila River
back.
Resorts and Casinos.
back.
I planned my own boys trip, and I'm not including Damon. That's the way it works. But I am stealing Jesse, and we're going to go and have a great time. And you can too.
Jesse, how could you?
Yeah,
turn
I
your
get
back
invited
on
to
me like
everything.
He
this?
does.
I
He's a
love
popular
it.
guy.
It's
He's a popular
fantastic.
Jesse, what the hell, man? I thought you turned your back on me. I thought we were doing this without Derek.
See, you know what?
I'll still go with you.
He has no loyalty.
I'm
He has
just.
no
I'm
loyalty.
also.
But I thought this was an us thing, not like a
No,
Jesse gets
you
to
made
go
it into
with
you made it
everybody
into
kind
a
of
selfish thing. I wanted to go with everybody. I wanted to go with all the boys, But see, this is what happens: is now we got multiple staycations planned at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, and that's what we live here, so we can do that. If you want to not take me, I'll go on my own weekend, and no matter what, I'm gonna have a good time because they have an unprecedented level of entertainment and excitement that you just won't get anywhere else. Of course, they have state-of-the-art gaming floor that has over 800 slot machines, which I absolutely love now. I'm a big Lotus Flower guy, by the way, just for my other fellow Lotus heads out there. 15 blackjack tables, live game tables, and of course, Arizona's largest casino sportsbook. So, of course, you can be jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. They have their dining ranges from upscale to approachable with their rooftop restaurant, Prime A Shula Steakhouse, or you can grab a cocktail and get a quiet bite by the pool. All these options. Of course, I'm telling you, staycation, best place you can find here in the Valley. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit play@gila.com for more details, especially if you have family coming into town. If they're staying with you, maybe you go stay at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Let them take over your house, and you enjoy your time here during this holiday season. But, of course, the D-backs made it much more enjoyable for members of their staff to enjoy their holiday season. The D-backs receive their share of the World Series postseason, I guess you could say player pool, right? It's a total player pool of $107.8 million that is shared amongst all of the teams that made the postseason.
Yep.
Bob Nightingale reported that this is the amount that the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, who made it the furthest, obviously, will share with their players and their staff. Now, this amount, the Diamondbacks have a National League pennant share of $313,634, and that's 71 shares of that, right? So that is that amount, Jesse, $313,000 that they are able to essentially share with their staff, clubbies, chefs, people in the organization, coaches, right? And that's a lot of money for some of these guys. That's an incredible amount of money for. I mean, it's even good for some of the players that don't really make that much money, by comparison to some of the superstars. But man, that's life-changing money for some of those guys within the organization.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that the way the process works is the players basically get to decide how they're going to distribute that money.
Right.
So I think you saw the Rangers had 61 shares, full shares that were distributed. The Diamondbacks had 71. I don't know exactly, how many of each type of person got this money, the clubbies and the staff and the coaches and all that.
Right, because they can, from that point, the team ends up creating the shares, and then each player will get like a full share, but then they can like break the shares down into half shares, maybe for clubbies and for team chefs and coaches and stuff, right? Yeah,
it is interesting that it appears that which player you are doesn't have any bearing on this process at all whatsoever. So whether you're Corbin Carroll or you're Jace Peterson, like it appears that everyone gets the exact same share of this money, which is interesting the way that the process works.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also really cool that some of those staff members that you talked about.
Saul, where's Saul? Saul's leaving right now. I was just going to ask him, Saul, where's our bonus share for how far the Diamondbacks made it?
That's a fair
in
question.
The playoffs.
Yeah,
I
that's a fair
mean,
question.
Apparently, according to this, people on the team get $313,000. So how much of that money are we seeing for bonuses for me and Jesse?
You get a share per supplemental content. So there's not much.
Oh no! Oh my God!
That was a burn.
That was
Derek.
a sick burn, right? I don't like that at all. But there's some supplemental content we can find out there, right? One share per supplemental content. I could find something.
I think we might be rich.
Yeah, I'm saying. I'm saying in the shorts department.
But also maybe not we, because you just said for you and Jesse right there, as if I'm just not a part of the team.
I really did leave him out, didn't I?
And Patrick deserves a little bit.
Yeah, well.
We'll give him a quarter share.
Yeah. We'll give Damon a little half share.
Yeah.
Right? a little half share, quarter share for
I was
Jesse Jr.
thinking an eighth, but
we'll figure it out.
If you're feeling generous,
yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, like I said, like of course, it's not even going to say like a full share to some of these players of $313,000 is insignificant by any stretch of the imagination, because that could be what some of the guys on the lower end of the pay scale receive in annual income. But for some of these guys, that's just an incredible, got to be an incredible, feeling to have your organization share some of that with you. Yeah. Especially if, your job might be seen as less significant and you don't really feel that love all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, this is all the player pool that we're talking about. The Diamondbacks as an organization also gain a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with the economic windfall that they're talking about for appearing in the World Series. This is merely just the player pool that is directly for players. And like Jesse said, they absolutely determine how they split it up, how many shares there are, and then even there beyond that, how the shares potentially are split up and who they go to within the organization. But it's for staff, it's for players, it's for coaches, it's for like I said, team usually, like they said here, clubbies, trainers, team chefs, etc. Players, people in the organization like that.
Yeah, it really is a game-changing experience for them. Not just this financial bonus that they get here at the end, and but also just the process of getting to this point. I mean, a lot of these people have been working for the Diamondbacks for a long time and have been through, some pretty rough seasons to get to this point.
Because we know a lot of people in the organization have been there the entire time we've covered the team. I've been around for a while myself, so I know that some of the clubbies and some of the people have been there the entire time I have. And also, half a share is still over $150,000.
Yeah, I'd be perfectly content with half a share.
Yeah. That's crazy. But of course, we don't see any of that money, as you saw from Saul. We'll have to figure that out. I'll get some lawyers involved or something. But I do implore you to go check out our shirts over at the PHNXlocker.com. You can get this wonderful shirt. We're fucking dangerous. Of course, we have our answer back shirt. We have the wagon shirt. We have our brand new Corbin Carroll Rookie of the Year shirt, all that you can get over at the PHNXlocker.com. Of course, if you are a diehard member, you'll get 20% off. And like I said, we might have a sale coming up for you. As you know, it's Black Friday right around the corner. But if you're not a diehard member yet, sign up today. You'll get a free t-shirt of your choice over at the PHNXlocker.com. And of course, you have to pick a Diamondbacks one. That's the way it works. If you heard it here, you're obligated to pick a Diamondbacks one. However, we won't get too mad at you if you pick any other shirt in the locker. You also get access to Jesse's diehard only newsletter, which he does have his mailbag coming up soon. So make sure to keep your eyes peeled for that. You also get access to our members only Discord lounge, discounts with our partners, and so much more. So make sure to sign up today, become a member, join the family. Of course, another great family to join is the Desert Financial Credit Union family. They got me started on my home ownership journey, which I want to pay off with those shares, those half shares that I should get from the team. But of course, you can also get started on your home ownership journey as well. Desert Financial Credit Union has mortgages, loans, credit cards, checking and savings accounts, investment options, and so much more. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted credit union, and they have your best interest in mind when it comes to your financial decisions and your financial journey. So look to Desert Financial for all of your financial needs and join a credit union that is committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with its members. Of course, you can open a checking account for free right now online, and if you do, you will get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200 to find out more information. Also, if you want to keep some more money in your pocket, you can go ahead and join the Inner Circle for free over at Circle K by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. But should you do that, you will receive 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Gas is getting very cheap right now, but of course, that shouldn't stop you from saving even more by signing up for the Inner Circle program right now. You'll also save 3 cents per gallon every day after that. You'll get all sorts of coupons and free offers sent to you through the app, through email, and you'll also get buy 5, get the 6th one free on a selection of Circle K products like pizza, coffee, and ice cold fountain drinks. So do not sleep on the Inner Circle. Join the free membership today. Well, that's all we have. Of course, we will still be here keeping an eye on this free agency market and seeing how things change as the options continue to get more and more limited for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But you can follow us in the meantime. I am at @cap_caveman with a K. This maniac next to me is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, the people's producer is Damon. He's at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. We are Damon's dogs. Arf, arf.
Bark, bark.
Bark, bark. All right, that's what we're doing today. All right. Of course, our show's at PHNX_D-backs, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate you stopping by. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it is so much more fun when you stop changing the goddamn rules on me.
We all silly like the mayor.